All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and man, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think people understand how drastic these rule changes are, man. We're gonna break down all of the wild new NFL rules that were just proposed, accepted, passed, made official, all of that type of stuff, man. We have some weird kickoff rules now. The kickoff is about to look the most different going from one season to the next, probably in NFL history. This is the most drastic change going from one year to the next. Then we have a trade deadline update. Now that date has changed. We have replay expansion. We have more rules that we can actually replay. We get a challenge rule change. We have Christmas games. NFL Hard Knocks has now expanded to 4 teams that they're going to follow, like an entire division rather than just one team. It's chaos. And of course, probably the most controversial of them all is the swivel hip drop. We're going to break down what that exactly means and everything else that I've talked about and more, because we have a lot of random rules in there that I didn't even just mention. So before we dive into all of that, make sure you still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, and still farm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned because I'm keeping y'all updated with everything. Y'all know I'm mostly Commanders, but when something like this happens, we gotta talk about it, because at the very least, I feel like my Commanders fan base that tune into my videos all need to be aware of these rule changes. And y'all already know me, man. With as bad of a memory as I have, I'm doing this video right now. By the time we get to week 1, I'm probably going to be surprised once again at how different these rules are, especially the kickoff. But stay tuned. I'm working on draft content. So again, even if you're not a Commanders fan, I'm about to start doing film sessions for a lot of the top draft prospects, working on my mock drafts and everything like that. And I really appreciate y'all, man. Let's go ahead and get to this content now. Make sure you follow the Facebook, the TikTok, the Twitter, and the Instagram in the description of this video. Let's go ahead and get to it, man. Let's get it. Adam. And before we dive into any little single thing, shouts out to my boy William, aka the Red Black Indian, man. Appreciate the big time donation to the Cash App, and my heart goes out to you and everything, man. Really appreciate the donation. Of course, like I always say, if y'all donate in between videos, especially through Cash App, and I'm not live streaming like I normally do when y'all donate, I feel like the very least I can do is to make sure I shout y'all out and thank y'all in my very next immediate video. So man, I really appreciate that. My dog Red Black Indian again. But let's go ahead and dive into the content. So first of all, let's start with the kickoff changes, because that's probably the weirdest one. I think the swivel hip drop is the most controversial. That's the one people are talking about the most, because it's what do we do? All of that. We're gonna dive into all of that. But I feel like the kickoff is insane. That is what are we doing? Special teams isn't even the same special teams that it used to be. I mean, for my Commanders, we went out and got Larry Izzo from the Seattle Seahawks, and I feel like he's one of the better or arguably best special teams coaches out there in the NFL. But now with this dramatic of a rule change, who knows who's a great special teams coach? Hopefully he's great at adapting quickly, because whoever adapts the quickest and develops the right special teams game plan, has the right personnel and the right strategy with this, is probably going to have the better of the special teams in the NFL. We can completely forget what has been done in the past. These rules are so different that even if you were a great special teams coach in the past, doesn't necessarily automatically mean that you're going to be one moving forward. This is crazy. So the new NFL kickoff rule passed, and it was 29-3 on the votes, with the 49ers, Raiders, and Packers being the only teams that voted against it. The NFL needed 24 teams to approve the league's proposal to change the kickoff. The rule changed with 5 votes to spare. The final vote was 29-3 in favor of the rule change, with only the 49ers, Raiders, and the Packers voting against it, according to Albert Breer. That represents more support than was believed to be in the room originally, especially after word emerged yesterday that a straw hat vote showed the rule change to be a few votes short of the 24 that it needed to pass. So I have absolutely no idea what changed between a couple of days ago to today when the rule was passed. We went from not having enough votes votes to having too many votes. I have really no idea what caused that. Maybe nobody knows. But either way, continuing on, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and other league officials strongly supported the new rule, which is designed to increase the number of returns and decrease the number of injuries on kickoffs. It's safe to assume the league may have twisted a few arms to line up enough votes for the rule to pass. I really would love to know behind the scenes what happened there. It's one of the most radical changes we've seen to NFL rules, and it's a change that most, but not all, of the league supported. Again, we're about to dive into exactly what it means and what it looks like and things like that. But again, I just want to warn y'all, this is one of the biggest rule changes we've ever seen in the NFL, man. This is crazy. This is pretty much as dramatic as us adding an entire new regular season game, going from 16 regular season games in 17 weeks to 17 regular season games in 18 weeks. This is that dramatic. Trust me, I'm going to provide y'all the visual illustration of what this is going to look like and like an example clip from another football league so you can truly understand how ridiculous and crazy this looks. I know it's supposed to promote player safety, but as a fan, this is going to look really stupid at first. Like, we're going to be like, what is this? And of course, over time, we're going to get used to it and we'll accept it. It is what it is. But man, first of all, I feel sorry for a lot of special teams players because, again, the purpose of this is to dramatically decrease the amount of kickoffs that are actually returned and attempted. So guys like Devin, Hester, or my boy Mitch, Bobby Mitchell, like those type of guys, I'm not saying they're becoming extinct, but their value is definitely decreasing right now, man. I mean, we still have punt returns. I guess that's your best chance, but kickoff returns are pretty much done. If we see a kickoff return for a touchdown, the kickoff team is terrible. You're terrible if you go for that with these current rules. But continuing on, quote, the optics are the most drastic we've seen with any changes, said Falcons CEO competition chairman Rich McKay. Again, this is extremely dramatic. So first of all, here's like an illustration of what it looks like. Again, I'm going to provide y'all like an actual clip of real life people actually going through with the kickoff and participating in it and what it actually looks like on a football field in action with moving pieces and things like that. But this is like the actual visual representation of it. And this, I mean, I feel like even this, you can tell how ridiculous that is, man. Look at where they're starting. They have the landing zone. They have the setup zone where the kickoff return team is like most of their guys are lined up. Then, I mean, look at where the kickoff starting line is. They're at the 40-yard line of the opponent side of the field. Like, this is crazy. And then the kicker is just all the way back there by himself. But this is chaos, man. This is going to look more like a kickoff after a safety, and it's actually going to look even weirder than that compared to what a kickoff used to look like. This is chaos, man. So to do like a full breakdown of exactly what's going on, the rule places 10 members of the kicking team lining up on the receiving team's 40-yard line. They cannot move until the kick is either caught or hits the ground. The receiving team will have at least 9 players lined up in the setup zone between their own 30 and 35-yard lines, with 7 of those players having a foot on the 35-yard line with specific alignment requirements. Those players also can't move until the ball is caught or hits the ground. And even just more how dramatic this is on the players and coaches as far as like strategy. Just imagine what the refs are going through right now, trying to officially not only learn these rules, but to have it just basically imprinted in their brain to the point that they are ready by week 1 of the regular season to make accurate calls, to look, okay, are 7 guys, do they have their foot on the 35-yard line? Is everybody in the exact safe zone? Did nobody move until the kick hit the ground or started being returned? Like, these are different things that refs have to look out for that they've never had to look out for before. And so, I mean, I feel like there's even going to be some growing pains there for the refs. I feel like we're going to have a lot of errors as far as refs not making the right call or calling the wrong thing, whichever way. I just feel like there's going to be some severe growing pains coming from this to start out, because even the refs are going to struggle to adjust to these new rules. Not just the players, not just the coaches, not just NFL teams, but poor refs, man. And we get mad at the refs a lot, but boy, I do feel sorry for them on this one. And so that sets the majority of the kickoff team and the kickoff return team within 5 yards apart from each other, thus mitigating high-speed collisions. A maximum of 2 players on the return team can line up in the landing zone between the end zone and the 20-yard line. They are free to move as desired or needed prior to the kick being caught or hitting the ground. Any kick that lands in the landing zone is live, meaning it has to be returned, or else the kicking team can recover it as a loose ball, basically like a punt essentially like an onside kick. That's how it's always been, but still. Kicks that land short of the landing zone are considered to be the same as a kickoff out of bounds, with the receiving team gaining possession at their own 40-yard line. Very interesting. So it doesn't even necessarily have to go out of bounds. If it just lands before the landing zone, if it lands short of that, that's also a penalty to the kicker. Kickoffs that travel into the end zone through the air can be down for a touchback, with the ball going all the way out to the 30-yard line now. And the original proposal where they were trying to get it to go out to the 35, but they settled on the 30-yard line. I mean, what happened to the 20? Then we moved up to the 25. Now we're on the 30? But a wrinkle exists there. If the ball lands in the landing zone and bounces into the end zone, then the touchback only moves the ball to the 20-yard line. That's interesting. That rule will encourage teams to return any kick that comes down short of the goal line. So that's kind of like the give and take there. All of these rules have made it to where nobody's really going to want to return the ball. It's going to be impossible. It's going to be difficult. But at the same time, they're like, hey, man, we're giving y'all like random little tweaks to the rule to where maybe it encourages you to want to return the ball just a little bit more so that we don't completely just eliminate the kickoff return from the entire sport, to where we don't just completely eliminate the kickoff returner from the entire sport and they just basically go extinct. Because now punt returners are far more valuable than a kick returner, because again, kick returners are way less likely to return the ball than a punt returner would at this point. But again, they're introducing things and tweaks to where they're like, okay, so if the ball lands in the landing zone but then bounces into the end zone, you only go to the 20-yard line rather than the 30. So if it lands in the landing zone, it is strategically best for you to pick it up and try to return it as many chances as you can get, basically. Also, additionally, no fair catches will be allowed on kickoffs. And if the ball is blown off the tee by the wind, kickers can use a kicking arm to hold it in place. Previously, a teammate will hold the ball on the tee, but with the kicking team downfield, that's no longer an option. Nobody's even near the kicker. If you're looking at the illustration right now, like I have on the screen, nobody's within basically like 20 yards of the kicker. More than 20 yards of the kicker. That's crazy. Lastly, the setup zone and landing zone won't change if any penalties carry over into the kickoff. Only the location of the kick will change. And again, I just want to reiterate this part about nobody will physically be able to hold the ball for the kicker anymore. So you know those games where we're like in Buffalo or Chicago and the kicker keeps trying to kick the ball, but the wind keeps knocking it down? I guess we're just going to have to keep doing it over and over again. I mean, they said that we're going to have a kicking arm they could bring out to hold it, but I'm still not sure if that's strong enough and sturdy enough to actually hold it through serious winds like a player will be able to, but we'll see. While this rule likely means death to the onside kick, there is a rule allowing onside kicks to be attempted in the fourth quarter. That's another big time change. A team trailing in the fourth quarter is allowed to attempt one, though they have to announce their intentions before the play. So this is basically death to the onside kick. First of all, you can't do it until the fourth quarter, and then you have to be trailing in the fourth quarter, and then you can only do it once. And you have to let the other team know, hey, before we do this onside kick, just know we're about to do an onside kick. That's crazy. And then the current onside kick rules apply from that point forward. But I mean, you've already done so much damage before. It doesn't matter what the rest of the kickoff looks like. Y'all already killed it beforehand. So this is just chaotic. So now, like I promised, here's like an example play of, I mean, this is going around like Adam Schefter tweeted this out. A lot of people are retweeting this exact play. And this is what a kickoff will basically look like. Like, dog, what is that, man? What is that? What is that? That's disgusting. I know that it's all for player safety. This whole thing is literally for player safety. But boy, that looks stupid compared to what I'm used to. If these were the rules since I was born, I wouldn't even question it. And like I said, over time, we're all going to get so used to this. It's going to be like, wait, the kickoff did used to be different back in the day. And that's going to feel prehistoric at some point. But right now, especially going into like the preseason and week 1 of the regular season. There's going to be a lot of people like, yo, what is this? Especially if they're not aware of the fact that this rule change has been made as of today, which is the reason why I'm making this video. I hope as many people see this video as possible so that when we get to the preseason, people don't think they're watching the wrong sport. Like, is this the NFL type of situation? Now on to the hip drop. It is hip drop time. Again, this is probably the most controversial part of it. And the NFL has now officially banned the hip drop tackle. It was approved after the NFL Competition Committee formally presented the proposal to owners yesterday morning in Orlando. The NFL Competition Committee had unanimously supported the ban on the hip drop tackle, and the ban will be enacted over the objection of the NFLPA. So apparently the NFLPA does not want it, and the NFL was like, too bad. That's too bad. Y'all gonna have to get used to it, man. Adjust and adapt, man. That is tragic. But the NFL owners have approved a rule proposal to ban the swivel hip drop tackle. The league announced Monday, as in yesterday. The violation will result in a 15-yard penalty if flagged in games. But Troy Vincent, the NFL executive's vice president of football operations, strongly implied last week that it is actually likely to be enforced similarly to the use of helmet rule, which typically leads to warning letters and fines in the week after the game rather than flags during the play. So basically they're saying don't expect a whole lot of 15-yard penalties in the game unless it's just very obvious and egregious. Basically they're trying to tell refs to go into it thinking like, hey man, if you even have to think about it, if you have to question it, when in doubt, don't call it. We'll punish them later, but don't punish them in game. Don't affect the game by making the wrong call. That's worst case scenario. You accuse somebody of a swivel hip drop tackle and then they actually didn't do it. That's the scenario we want by far the least. That's what the NFL is saying. When in doubt, refs, if you don't know with conclusive evidence that that was a swivel hip drop tackle, don't call it. We'll punish them later. And I mean, the hip drop tackle rules do seem pretty insane, but at the very least, if they're going about it like that, I'm cool with it. Please don't let it affect games though. Please, especially like in a situation where the game is close and then like a defensive player makes a really good tackle. It wasn't a swivel hip drop. The ref for some reason thinks it is. And then the player that got tackled isn't even hurt. He's just minding his business. He doesn't even like what happened. Like, I mean, I'm the one that got tackled and I'm chilling while the ref's tripping. So I just really hope we avoid that. That's worst case scenario. Now, the hip drop tackling ban proposal was written to address only a subset of the rugby tackling style that is spread around the NFL in recent years. Competition Committee Chairman Rich McKay said last week, there's just been a lot of new techniques that people have been watching rugby, taking those techniques, bringing them to the NFL to kind of help the defense, because the rules are clearly set up for offense to win right now, which is a crazy because I just saw some report, like some article saying that people are actually worried around like NFL circles about how scoring was down last season. But if anything, this is like the golden era for offense. You can't touch anybody, especially the quarterback. You can't do anything. You can barely even say anything to players. And it's literally like the rules are set up to where the NFL the offense specifically should always win, because offense winning leads to points, points lead to views, views lead to money for the NFL. And I mean, the rules are literally set up. You can say maybe it's for player safety as well, but it's also to protect their biggest investments, most notably, more specifically, the quarterback. And so it's just amazing to me that the defense just has all of these things going against them, and then now they add another one. But you could tell that people were trying to see, okay, maybe we could take something from rugby to try to even the odds a little bit better for the defense, maybe to put us in a slightly better situation and vantage point than what it's been the past few years. And then the NFL came in and was like, no, stop all that rugby stuff, and we're starting here with the swift hip drop tackle. The tackling technique often results in lower body injuries. The rule requires officials to note two actions: if a defender grabs the runner with both hands or wraps the runner with both arms, and also unweights himself by swiveling and dropping his hips and or his lower body, landing on and trapping the runner's legs at or below the knee. And on Monday, McKay clarified that Monday's rule change doesn't eliminate the hip drop tackle in general, only the swivel technique that doesn't get used very often. So they also want to emphasize that they don't mean every hip drop tackle. That doesn't mean you're just not allowed to tackle anybody from behind, but it's specifically when they say basically like when you're kicking your legs out, you grab the guy and then you completely unweight yourself to where you're not even touching the ground anymore. Your only physical connection to earth at that point is the offensive player that you're trying to bring down, basically. And especially if you swing your body like you swivel it. I hate the wording of this though. The wording is terrible. The diction of this is absolutely atrocious. But basically you swivel your body and you like kick your legs forward kind of to like help yourself bring them back down backwards, and especially if you're trapping like their knee down. That's what they're trying to outrule specifically, but not the hip drop tackle entirely, specifically the swivel. And if you also want to hear like another way of wording it, the player, if he unweights himself by swiveling and dropping his hips and or lower body, landing or trapping on the runner's legs or below the knee. That's like the most direct way that they try to define it. It is very similar to what I already just read to you, but I don't know how else to say it, man. It's really hard to describe. You kind of just have to see it, to be completely honest, man. And Albert Breer brings up a great point. The underlying issue with the hip drop tackling is this outgrowth of coaches teaching Seahawk tackling, which is rugby style, designated to take the head out of hits. The NFL recognized this and used rugby to define the hip drop. So again, they have their own clip. They provided these clips, the NFL themselves, to a lot of media members and analysts and people that are around the NFL. And if you want to see that clip, here it is right now. And that was tweeted directly from Tom Pelissero. So that is not me recording my own TV. That's not me with the actual clips and things like that. I hope that helps y'all understand a little bit better what they mean. They also noted a lot of really good examples in rugby, like the NFL, like acknowledged, like there's like this rugby video out there if you want to go find it, where they're showing a lot of examples of what the hip drop tackle is, and there's like literally like a narrator. They slow it down, they pause it, they only like everybody's grayscaled, and only the player with the ball and the player doing the tackling that's guilty of the swivel hip drop tackle are the only ones that are in color. And again, there's like a guy narrating exactly what's going on, why it's happening, why it should be outlawed, and things like that. So if you want to go check that out, I think that's like the best breakdown I've seen of why this technique will be penalized and how it will be penalized and things like that. What exactly the NFL is looking for. I feel like it's better than even that NFL one I just gave you if you want to go check that out. I don't want to post that in this video because it's like an actual YouTube video posted by like an actual real rugby league account, so I don't want to steal their content there. But just to let y'all know, a video out there like that exists, and I feel like that was the clearest, like easiest to understand one by far, yet even more than the NFL one I just showed you. And of course, a lot of people are upset about this though. I feel like if people understood exactly what they meant with the swivel hip drop tackle thing, maybe people, especially fans, will not be as upset as it seems, an NFL player, especially defensive players. But I still feel like they just worded it weird. I feel like they're just not being clear enough, and I'm worried about it. Most importantly, the refs not understanding it well enough and making the wrong calls. But a lot of people are upset and basically calling the NFL flag football now at this point. Y'all know me, man. One of the biggest things that have upset me about the NFL recently is their like crackdown on trash talking. Like, you can't do certain things. Like, what is this hurt feelings rule that the NFL is trying to put out there? The NBA is doing it too. Like, you can't even like You can't even flex after you dunk on somebody. I hate how they're doing that across the board in all leagues. But now you have a lot of people upset about this, and it's like, man, we can't even really have contact. And I'm not gonna lie, again, I see what they're trying to do. Like the goal is great. Like I see why they're doing what they're doing. I just feel like the execution was bad. Like I get it. I just feel like the idea, great. Execution, not good. I felt like they did a terrible job of like defining it specifically. I feel like it's also a very subjective call that the refs may get wrong more times than not, just because it's still kind of like ambiguous as to exactly what a swivel hip drop tackle is. Even with all of the breakdowns I've given you, I just still feel like the refs are going to struggle, especially to start the NFL season. Hopefully throughout the NFL season, they get better at identifying it and being able to differentiate that was one, that wasn't one, or whatever. But I feel like in the beginning, we're going to get a lot of ugly calls, man. So go ahead and buckle up for that. But I mean, it's really getting to the point where, like, if we continue on this trajectory, you're going to have to basically tackle players by the football at this point. Like, you can't even touch them. Touching them is illegal at a certain point, man. And again, I really feel sorry for defensive backs, especially because them trying to tackle big tight ends is over with. You're done. They're probably going to struggle the most out of any position group with this rule change, man. Defensive backs are cooked. I wonder how Pro Football Focus also will adjust their like grading system, knowing that DBs are hurt the most by this rule change and they're at a strong disadvantage with the way that the NFL is now going to be refereed and monitored. It's scary for them, man. So Pro Football Focus, I really hope y'all adjust y'all graded system for that and don't just hand every DB a terrible tackling grade. Also, I'm afraid that people are about to start getting Nick Chubbed as a way to work around this hip drop chaos that's going on. DBs are going to be like, man, I don't even understand what you're trying to tell me. I don't even understand what I'm not exactly supposed to do. So I'm just not even going to attempt it at all. I know y'all say some hip drops are okay, some aren't. I'm just going to avoid it completely. I'm about to just start Nick Chubbing people. And that's what I'm really afraid of. Because I don't know if y'all remember how the Steelers did my Georgia dog, Nick Chubb, where he just put his whole full body, shoulder, helmet, everything into Nick Chubb's knee directly. And it basically just went backwards. And I feel like a lot of DBs are going to do whatever it takes to do that rather than trying to do the hip drop tackle. I'm definitely afraid of what this will mean going into the future, because I feel like they're going to fix one thing. Yeah, maybe players don't get hurt because of this, but then now players are going to start getting hurt because of this other move more. That's what I'm afraid of. But the NFL says that there were 230 swivel hip drop tackles last year, about one per game, and that the numbers were going up year after year after year, and that's why they put their foot down to stop it this year before it keeps escalating and gaining even more momentum. Now moving on to replay changes. There's a lot going on with the replays. So the NFL Competition Committee's report says that the committee recommends, after a thorough examination, that the replay assist system could be used to help the on-field officials on plays when a flag was thrown for intentional grounding, roughing the passer, and a hit out of bounds. At first, a lot of those were not reviewable. Now they are. The competition committee report says the replay official and officiating department personnel may not instruct the on-field officials to put a flag down through the replay assist process on any of the above situations. It would only be used when a foul has been called on the field, to basically be like, nah, that was not a foul. Let's reverse that. On a flag thrown for intentional grounding, replay assist could be used to determine whether the quarterback was out of the pocket and whether the quarterback was facing an imminent loss of yardage under duress, the competition committee report says. On a play in which the flag was thrown for roughing the passer, replay assist could be used when a defender's contact to the head or neck area of the quarterback was the only criteria used when the official threw the flag. So this is very specific. Don't just act like, okay, roughing the passer, we get to challenge that immediately. No, it has to be specific things. It has to be specifically because the only call that the ref made was a helmet contact to the head or the neck of the quarterback. That's it. No other part of roughing the passer is reviewable. I really want to emphasize that. Same thing with intentional grounding. There's certain stipulations that need to be met for it to actually be reviewable. The competition committee's report says that as far as roughing the passer goes, quote, the replay official and New York personnel will only request that the officiating crew pick up the flag if there was clear and obvious video evidence that the defender did not make any contact to the head or the neck area, unquote. And I mean, of course, this isn't like a big jump, but this is still pretty monumental because at first we couldn't challenge it at all, no matter what. Even after us fans watching it through the TV see in the slow motion replay clearly that that defender didn't even get anywhere near the quarterback's helmet. But once the call was made by the ref, there was nothing we could do. But now you could do something about it. But of course, with every good, there's a bad. Now this is going to slow games down. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. We're going to have a lot more replays, and the game pacing is definitely going to diminish a little bit, but we'll get there. On a play in which a flag was thrown for a late hit out of bounds, the replay assist system could only be used to determine whether a runner was out of bounds when the officiating crew penalized the defender for a late hit out of bounds. That's it. And if the runner was clearly in bounds, then the flag would get picked up. The competition committee's report says of the use of the replay assist system on a play in which a flag was thrown for a late hit out of bounds. So very specific, very, man, I just already know all of these rule changes happening at the same time. Not only are these rules individually very subjective and difficult, but then for all of this to be happening at the same time, we're still only like halfway through this video, all of the different rule changes. On the field wise, we're majority through, but there's a lot of different changes going on in the NFL. I mean, I'm 30 minutes into recording. I wouldn't be surprised if this video ends up going almost an hour long. Again, we're only like halfway through at this point, but I'm just afraid of the fact that all of these new rules being enacted in the same all season is going to be really hard for refs to adjust and to be able to be perfect at it, because I mean, we already have the kickoff thing they got to learn about. Now they got to watch all of these different replaying rules and things like that. It's just a lot. I feel like they're throwing a lot on the refs in one off season. I feel like we should have done this step by step, maybe giving them like a couple of rule changes one off season, maybe a couple of more the next, instead of just doing all of them at once. I'm just expecting room for error. I'm expecting a lot of mistakes to be made with a lot of these calls. But moving on, also 2 new rules passed at the league meetings involve what can be replayed. So there's another one where they're going to review, like, as far as ruling a passer down by contact or out of bounds before throwing a pass, as that's going to be reviewable as well. And then also to allow a replay review when there is clear and obvious visual evidence that the game clock expired before any snap. That's also reviewable. So they're just making it to where you can review so many more things than we could in the past. There's some very specific stimulations to some of those reviews, some of those challenges, but at the end of the day, there's a lot more interesting random nuances of the game of football, the whole sport, that are actually reviewable, where it's like, okay, that was obvious. Y'all need to be able to take that flag back, man. Like, come on, dog. And now they can. Because some of them have just been, all of us on the TV side of things are like, bro, what made you even throw that flag? But now that the flag's on the ground, the way that the NFL had it set up was that, hey, man, now we can't take it back. Even though it's very obvious that it was the bad call, we don't have rules in place to where you can pick that flag up. Now you can with at least the backing of replay. But at the same time, I feel like there's going to be 2 bad parts of this. Now that there is a backup plan, there's a when in doubt in place, a break glass in case of emergency for the refs, I feel like they're going to get a little bit more aggressive with their calls. I feel like they're going to call things they normally wouldn't, because with the pressure of, oh, this flag can't be picked up if I make the wrong call. Now that they can, now they're like, well, I can make the wrong call and they could just replay it. Well, it will be all right. No, I'm not going to get as many death threats as I normally get. And then also, again, like I briefly mentioned earlier, man, the pace of play is definitely going to suffer for this. I mean, I'm happy that they're going to be able to get calls right more often. They're going to be a little bit more accurate, but at the same time, man, this is going to slow the game down a lot, just to give y'all a big time heads up. Big time heads up. Also, shouts out to Michael Phillips for bringing up this point. Only allowing replay when a flag is thrown will teach refs to always throw the flag, since replay can bail you out. That's basically what I was trying to say. I completely agree. And then at the same time, it technically doesn't bail you out, because it's going to cost teams challenge flags. But it is what it is, man. I'm just really afraid of the ramifications of how all of this is about to go down. This 2024 regular season, I'm telling y'all right now, is a huge experiment. The NFL even acknowledged it themselves that we're going to test the see how this goes, and we'll see next offseason if we need to keep it or change it back or make whatever tweaks we need to. But they've even said it from themselves. The NFL themselves have said this is basically an experiment to see how this goes. So, hey man, buckle up, because really nobody knows how this is gonna go. But hey, at the very least, as a fan, this should be very entertaining, and I hope that we're more so on the winning side of a lot of this stupidity potentially about to go down than the losing side. I really hope so, because somebody's going to be treated unfairly with these rules, how subjective things are, how unclear things are. This is definitely not going to be fair officiating, so go ahead and buckle up for that now. Also, some other interesting changes that are included. First of all, a team can place 2 players on IR before final cuts and designate them to return in season. Normally, that meant season-long designation previously, so that was like, they're done. That's it for the season for them. Now you can bring those guys back. You can pick 2 of them that you can place on IR and potentially bring back at some point in the season. And teams usually did that in the past because they were just trying to save space for the 53-man roster. Now you can save that space in your 53-man roster before you even go into the regular season. And now you can bring 2 of those guys back. So that's helpful for everybody, it seems like. I'm surprised that wasn't a rule already. Also, you have an unlimited number of emergency quarterback additions from the practice squad as well. So with as many quarterbacks was getting hurt last year, they were basically like, I guess, man, we need to allow teams to have as many quarterbacks as they want to. And last year was the first time you could have a 3rd one and it not count towards your roster limit. But now you can have unlimited, basically. So I thought that was really interesting. We had a lot of hurt quarterbacks last year, and I guess teams were sick of it. So now they're just like, man, give us as many backup quarterbacks as we can get. And I mean, I see the logic. Like, yeah, of course, that's the right thing to do. But how many teams actually expect their backups quarterbacks to come in and win them games? So at the end of the day, it's probably not going to really affect much at the end of the day anyway. Also, a really big change, shouts out to the Detroit Lions for this one. It will protect the club's ability to challenge a 3rd ruling following one successful challenge. Thank you for that. So if you have a successful challenge, now you're able to get a 3rd one. You receive one back after you get one. And then also, there's now a rule to where there's an enforcement of a major foul by an offense prior to the change of possession in a situation where there are fouls by both teams. And that one's really random. Also, shouts out to the Lions for another rule update. They did a proposal to allow teams an unlimited number of designated to return transactions during the postseason. And I guess they were dealing with that last year and was like, oh, nah, man, we're not used to being in the postseason. We didn't know we needed this rule until we had our deep playoff run last year, making it to the NFC Championship. And it was like, man, I wish we had some more players we could have designated to return. Whew, that would have been really nice, huh? And so they went and proposed that, and it got approved. Also, shouts out to the Buffalo Bills for this one. They made it to where you can make injury reporting rules for players who do not travel with their clubs to games away from their home city competitively fairer. So shouts out to that. Also, shouts out to the Jaguars. They expanded the 2023 preseason trial of providing a specific Hawkeye feed in the coaches' booths for the 2024 preseason with full implementation for the 2025 season. That's very specific, very random as well. That's why I kind of saved all of those really random, not as impactful rules to kind of throw in there at the same time. Now, moving on, we also have a trade deadline change, and I feel like a lot of people really need to pay attention to this one, because now the NFL is moving the trade deadline from after week 8 of the NFL regular season to after week 9. Washington also and 5 other teams wanted the trade deadline pushed back to after week 10, but Pittsburgh wanted it pushed to after week 9, and Pittsburgh ended up winning. But again, Washington, my Commanders, and 5 other teams wanted it 2 weeks later than it usually was, but now it will officially be just 1 week later, and that's very important, man. This trade deadline movement, man, now that gives teams an extra week to realize, okay, are we actually playoff contenders or are we not? I feel like with it being a week earlier, like it's been, like after week 8, now it's week 9, and some teams wanted it week 10. I feel like week 8 version of it, a lot of teams may have jumped the gun. Maybe they made some immature decisions, not the right decision. They were like, well, I think we're playoff contenders. Now with an extra week of a little bit more data to know, okay, maybe we actually are playoff contenders. Let's go trade for this veteran. You know, I think it's going to make things a little bit better for everybody. We could talk about that for 30 minutes in itself, run through a whole bunch of different scenarios. But again, this video is already long enough. Let's go ahead and move on, man. Also, the NFL will now play on Christmas Day. They will have games even though it's on a Wednesday this 2024 season. They are completely bullying the NBA. I thought it was very weird that we had NFL games last year on Christmas. Now they're just completely bogarting and bullying the NFL and daring them to do something. And poor NBA, because yeah, they got it internationally, but when it comes to just America by itself specifically, NFL dominates, man. Whenever the NFL and the NBA play at the same time and the same day, the NFL dominates, and that's just so terrible. There's always been NFL had Thanksgiving, NBA had Christmas. Y'all just mind y'all business, stay to your own sides. There's no reason for us to ever have to meet in the middle or anything like that. Now the NFL is crossing that line and daring the NBA to do something about it, and that's just so petty. Because Wednesday, and so also shouts out to Resh Manuel for pointing this out. Only a handful of NFL teams have ever lost on a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday, a Monday, and a Tuesday. And I think it's Washington, Buffalo, Philadelphia, and Dallas, he says. Could one of those teams have the chance to have the first loss of an NFL team for every day of the week? That's really interesting, man. So there's that possibility. So now starting Christmas Day, we'll have this weekend long football stretch. December 25th, NFL game. December 26th. Then we take a break December 27th. Come right back December 28th, NFL games. December 29th, NFL games. December 30th, NFL game. And then December 31st, college football quarterfinals. And January 1st, college football quarterfinals. So NFL is now dominating the end of December to early January. It's completely theirs. Just the sport of football, period, including college football as well. Now with their expanded playoffs and things like that. This is chaos. I really feel sorry for basketball because football is actually for real taking over. And again, they're just daring the NBA to do something about it. I dare you. Yeah, go ahead and run your games on Christmas like you always did. They're not even trying to be nice about it. And we're just going to go ahead and run our games too and see who wins. And maybe they're trying to push the NBA out of even having games on Christmas. And I know if I'm an NFL player, no, I want to spend Christmas with my family, dog. Can we chill out with this? Can this not become a habit? Can this not be a permanent thing that we do? Let the NBA have Christmas so I can spend time with my family on Christmas. I already got to be away on Thanksgiving if I'm the Detroit Lions and the Cowboys and whoever their opponents are, and then the other random third matchup between usually two good teams. They already got to spend Thanksgiving away from each other. Now there's a chance you have to spend Christmas away from your family continuously. Like this is like a permanent thing, it looks like, that the NFL is trying to do. Golly, man, I feel sorry for him, man. If I'm a player, I'm mad. I'm not liking this at all. And if I'm the NBA, I'm definitely upset as well. Also, Roger Goodell said that there could be changes potentially to the NFL's ownership rules in May or October. So be on the lookout for that. That's just something that I saw that, hey, man, keep that in mind. And then lastly, before we get up out of here, Hard Knocks is now made a few rule changes of their own. So now with Hard Knocks, first of all, I think the biggest change, the most interesting change to me, is that now Hard Knocks will follow 4 teams within one division. That is crazy. That's like, what is going on? Now it's inevitable. I mean, it's only 8 divisions in football. Eventually, they're going to come around to your division. You're going to get covered. And I know a lot of fans are happy about that, but I know a lot of NFL teams are not happy about that just by the way that everybody tries to avoid Hard Knocks and the fact that they even have to have in place, nah, you can't avoid it. You can only avoid Hard Knocks if there's this. Like, if you've done these things, if you've made this checklist, you've completed that exact criteria, you've reached these stipulations. That's if teams are trying to avoid it, and the NFL literally has to force teams to be a part of Hard Knocks, there's a reason that they don't want to be a part of it. But also, not only will there be 4 teams on the in-season show, but there will also still be a team on the preseason version of the show as well. So there could potentially be 5 teams being covered by Hard Knocks in one single season. The NFL has had some trouble finding a volunteer team over the past few years. Again, with good reason, the distractions and all of that type of stuff. So the league has changed the qualification rules for being on Hard Knocks. Under the new rules, a team doesn't have to be on the show if any of the 3 rules below apply to the team. So you don't have to meet all 3, just have to be one of the 3. They have a first-year head coach in place, so that rules out my Commanders. They're participating in the in-season show during the upcoming year or the following season, and they have appeared on Hard Knocks in the past 8 years. So the Commanders really only meet the first one, so I guess we're safe because of that. Under the old rules, a team could turn down Hard Knocks if they had made the playoffs at any point over the last 2 seasons. But that rule has now been tossed out, so that's another big change for Hard Knocks. You making the playoffs the past 2 seasons no longer saves you. Also, any team that has appeared on Hard Knocks in the past 10 years was also able to avoid being on the show under the old rules, but that number has now been reduced down to 8 years instead of 10. So another big change for Hard Knocks as well. That's 3 big changes. The NFL didn't reveal who will be on the show in 2024 yet, but it should be a lot more exciting now that teams will be eligible for the preseason version as well. So, hey man, stay tuned for all of that. We have a lot of different changes. I'm scared, but I'm also very excited. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure y'all stay tuned because y'all know me. I'm coming with Commanders content every day. But when any major NFL news comes out like this where I feel like everybody should know about, especially my Commanders fans, I'm gonna do reports on it. And again, even if you're not a Commanders fan, I'm working on draft content. I'm doing film sessions on a lot of the top draft prospects. I'm gonna start doing mock drafts, like first round or first 2-round mock drafts where I pick for every team, all of that type of stuff. So stay tuned for that. And of course, for my Commanders fans, be on the lookout for another Commanders mock draft. Be on the lookout for a cap space update for the Commanders. Be on the lookout for a jersey update for all of the guys we've signed. And again, I want to do like a full dive, try hard breakdown and basically look at, okay, this player got this jersey number. What is his projected role based off of that jersey number? Is there any meaning behind the number that he ended up getting by the Commanders and all of that type of stuff? So stay tuned. I have a lot of creative content coming out. And then, of course, any Commanders updates, any little thing, even if it's a rumor, I'm coming out with a video for that as well. So stay tuned. I really appreciate y'all. And I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.